Hello and welcome to Fashionado TV. I'm E. Vincent Martinez. Our guest today, according to his bio, is a world traveler, micro-adventurer, bee and chicken keeper, gardener, inspired cook, and an enduring explorer of the creative process. Now, professionally speaking, he has 30 years of fashion design experience with an impressive portfolio as the global creative director for iconic brands like Giorgio Armani, Anne Klein, Perry Ellis, Paco Rabanne, and including Target and Gap. But it's with his current passion that his vision in life's work is making a social and economic impact in a very stylish way. Please welcome Mr. Patrick Robinson to Fashionado TV. Hello, Patrick. Hey, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being on Fashionado TV. You look
Ah,
fantastic, and your background is just gorgeous.
well, thank you. Thank you. It's I'm in New York City today.
Yeah, well,
Huffing and puffing. I'm not a I prefer being out of town or up at my house in my farm upstate, but the city's okay sometimes, I guess. I'll be nice.
but you've got to come out of nature once in a while and be in the city,
Mm, you know, I've lived here so long, and I moved to New York City when I was 17, and I'm much older than that now. I'm all of 30.
Right, me too.
You too.
Right.
But I you know, I loved the city forever and just have lived here and lived through so many parts of it and so many changes. But today I'm so much happier when I'm in nature. I'm so much happier when I'm
Well,
around animals.
you know what it is for me? I'm one of those people because I don't live in New York City.
Yeah.
I love to visit. It is great
Well,
to visit, but it's different to live there.
it's very much different to live here. It's you know, I have a young son who started college, and he loves it. He doesn't understand why anybody want to live anywhere else. And I was like, go somewhere else, like go to, you know, Nebraska. And he looked at me and was like,
Uh,
why?
no, well, that's the age to live in New York, and if you're gonna rough it when you're young. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
that's the time to do it. But hey, speaking of young, I want we're gonna really. I'm done to talk about your current brand, but I want to go back in back in the future, back in the past. That's a different thing. Back to the past, and let's talk about. I'm always curious to know how artists really get started. I know you went to
Mhm.
Parsons School of Design.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you know, it started even before then,
Oh, really?
and it started when I was around 14. So I grew up in Southern California, and I was a surfer. I was on the surf team, and I surfed every day. I loved nature boy, right? I
Yeah.
just love the freedom of surfing and being in the water and waking up to the waves, but also at night watching the sunset. And I fell in love with this small little company called Quicksilver. And it's
Oh, I
huge
know
now,
it.
but it was a tiny, tiny little San Clemente company. Fantastic. And they made board shorts that I just wore. I had every board short, and I mean, I got jobs in high school and did paper routes so I could buy more board shorts. And I fell in love with the idea of fashion almost through this very much this surf culture. And I decided that I needed a job, and I decided at 14 to start making surf trunks. And I don't know where it came from, but I was always the kid that wanted to make things. I'm still that way. I love to make things. I love to use my hands. I'm a woodworker. I'm all sorts of crazy little things. Anything I can build, cooking is, you know, using your hands. So I started making board shorts. Really cool, really fun, and probably the best business I've ever owned. Because if you, I sold them to all the kids in school. You had to pre-buy them, right? So I'd wear one pair, and you had to pay me up front. So you paid
Exactly.
me one
Smart.
day, yeah, and then I'd go to the fabric store, and I'd buy all the remnants of fabric. So all the fabrics were different, all these prints and wild colors. and then I'd go home and sew them. And I only knew how to make one size. And I sold them to boys, girls, tall, skinny, whatever. And if you were the first kid to see me when I came with that big bag the next day, you know, with like 40, 50 shorts, you got to pick between 40 and 50 shorts and find the one you love. If you saw me at the end of the day, that short was yours. The last one, you had no say. So it was a fantastic business, but what it did was it started making me think about the idea of people and people in space, and how fashion is really about how people show up in spaces and how people show up in different spaces in different times in their life. And something about that I fell in love with. So that was truly the beginning. And so I applied to Parsons. I grew up in California, applied to Parsons, and moved to New York.
It's quite the move.
Yeah, it was. I was 17. You could drink at 18 in the city then. That's how long ago it was.
I
And
remember that.
there was.
Oh, I hear.
Oh yeah, you heard. It was the age of nightclubs. It was the age of, there was Limelight was there, and Palladium, and Andy Warhol was still alive, and so it was a cool time in New York to be a New Yorker. And so I sort of grew up there and went to school in New York at Parsons. I went for the first year here, and then I actually moved to Paris.
Oh.
And went to school in Paris. And what a lot of people know, when I went to Paris, I actually worked, I was hired by Patrick Kelly, who was living there, and I became his assistant at a very young age. And when Patrick was doing all sorts of interesting things, and fashion was really an icon in Paris fashion as a Southern American with a lot of flavor. He actually gave me a pair of his overalls. I don't know if you remember Patrick, but he wore these big overalls.
Yes.
And he's with bicycle shorts and a bicycle hat. Cool guy. And so I did that, went to school there for 2 years, worked for Patrick, then came back and graduated from Parsons. But then it's, I could keep rambling, but what happened was I graduated from school, and because I had worked for so many smaller companies and different companies and Patrick, and when I graduated, within 6 months, I was already, I never was an assistant. I went straight to being a designer for a small brand called Herman Geiss. Very traditional, very small, but I don't even think it's in business anymore. And from there, I was hired. I'll give you the quick. From there, I was hired by Giorgio Armani. Gabriella Forte, his president, found me, loved what I was doing. I was a big-headed, young 24-year-old kid, and basically went and met Mr. Armani and said, oh, I see the problem with the brand. I can do this. I can fix this. And he hired me. And I moved to Milan for the next 6 years and worked on a brand and basically helped turn this brand into the best-selling collection in every country in the world.
Yeah.
So then basically then I got hired to fix things.
Yeah. I looked at your resume and it's impressive. I was just blown away. All these, they're iconic brands. From Perry Ellis to Paco Rabanne, Anne Klein, Target, Gap. Honestly, what haven't you done? I just think it's really incredible. And, one of the things that I wonder, and, I've been in education for 20 years. I've taught fashion for art and fashion for most of it. I've been out of the classroom for the last few years now, but my students always want, of course, to be, their own label, their own brand. But the way you did it is the smart way to do it. But I've always wondered, what's it like when you've got your vision, but when you're working with a brand like Giorgio Armani, you have to find, I guess, how do you convey your vision as the creative director and still stay in line with Giorgio's?
Yeah, you have to stay in line with someone. Well, he's such a force of nature. You don't have much of a choice.
Right.
But the idea of going to a brand and being its creative director and being the for all the different brands I've done it for is you have to find the essence of that brand, and then really your job is, and I think in all fashion, is to express that essence for today. because we're always changing. I mean, if you just look at Americans and the way Americans continuously change and dress, and there's a lot of people I was reading in the newspaper. All these people are like, "No, man, they're dressing too feminine and trying to pull themselves back from." It's like, no, that's just an expression of where the times are going. Life continues to move forward, and what all you do as a leader of a brand is take that essence and bring it to the day, to bring it to what the conversation is out there. And you're successful if you do that, because it plugs into people's lives.
Well, you've done so much, and I feel, just knowing you and what I've learned about you, that you are really now at your prime with Paskho. And
Yeah.
there's a quote I'm going to read back to you. You've got, no, it's all about, it's a great article about you and Paskho in Vogue from 2 years ago. And the final quote is so perfect, I think. You say, I feel like I'm finally getting to where I want to. I feel like I'm finally closing the circle. And, hearing you speak and reading the article and, just navigating through your website, knowing how much you are your, self-proclaimed nature freak, I don't blame you. Yeah, you are really closing that circle, but in such a wonderful way that I would like to spend really this next chunk of time talking about Paskho. What inspired you, what motivated you, where are you going with it? It's such a great brand. I mean, and listen, personally speaking, I've already clocked the number of
good. We're gonna get it to you.
I need in my closet. So
excellent.
Tell us everything.
Yeah, and it's funny you talk about the circle, right? Because that's such an important. It's almost the hero's journey that Joseph Campbell talked about, which is an amazing book for everyone to read. But it's almost the circle of your life, where you go through challenges, and you go through and you meet mentors, and you discover more about yourself. You take an inner journey. Paskho's really born from that. It started as a brand. I've done all the, as you mentioned, right? I've done all these brands. I've had a very full career. I was very successful in the fashion industry. But I reached a point, and it was almost when I was just about to turn 50, and I said to myself, "What do you want to do the next 10 years?" And I was getting offers to go and fix the next brand. Right, my whole career was, if your brand was broken, I was the guy to call to come help you fix it.
Yeah.
And I'm good at that. I'm a pain in the behind. I push big organizations forward, and you kind of have to be. But I started thinking about all the things I kept seeing in the fashion industry as I was a leader in global brands, and all the pollution and all the hurt of humans. That I felt with all the clothes that I was making, all this product, and also the waste, the amount of clothes that we make that you never wear. All of us have, a closet full of clothes. We wear 20% of it. And this is a true statistic. All Americans wear 20% of their closet. There's no one, including me, no one who doesn't do it. And so I started the brand wanting to have a conversation about that. It's called Paskho, and Paskho means passion in ancient Greek, but it's not the passion like, I'm passionate about apple juice. It's the passion you feel if you're really in love with someone, and you're going to have the pain, and you're going to have the struggles, and it's everything, very Greek mythology, right? It's that whole deep struggle, and it's a deep word. And Paskho was really this idea of, I wanted to express this, what my passion was becoming as I was getting older, was I was caring about the food I ate. I was caring about the waste in my life. I was watching our world around me, and just seeing how disposable we were making everything. And we just can't survive that way. And we also don't need as much as what we're all taking. It's a very strange thing for a consumer brand to talk about, but we don't actually need a lot of clothes. And so Paskho was born, actually, I was backpacking through Yosemite, And I had with me one pair of pants, a pair of shorts, and 2 t-shirts. And I was gone for 18 days in the back of Yosemite backpacking. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool sitting around a fire one night? The only thing I do take is a little bottle of tequila. I was sitting around the fire one night, and I had this thought about, wouldn't it be cool to actually live in an urban environment and not have that many clothes, but have clothes that actually did a lot for you? You look cool. You know, you have the grace and the elegance and the beauty and the sophistication, but what if you could have function and performance with that also at the same time?
Form meets function here.
Yeah, yeah. And so Paskho was built up because I kept saying to myself, what could be more sustainable than only making people that 20% in their closet? And so all they really bought was that 20% that they actually wore and that they were really happy with and did multiple things. So if you go back and look at a lot of the stories that were written about us, that when we launched and they're still written, it became all these people who kept buying the clothes and going, I love this because I can get on the plane, fly to Germany, get off the plane, go to a board meeting, look really cool. People compliment me, take off my jacket, put on another jacket, and go and like be a tourist and travel around Germany, and then get back on the plane with the same clothes. And they felt that was how they wanted to live their life. So we really talk about that travel space because we think that if we can talk to you about that space that you're usually the most uncomfortable, but you always take the 20% with you. You know, you start packing your clothes. If you take something from that 80% that you'd never wear and you put it in that bag, you take it and you're like, why did I bring that? It's just taking up room.
I have done that, by the way. And you're
Everyone does it. Everyone does it. So we talk to people really about that travel space, because if we can get you to wear our clothes for travel, you come back like 100,000 of our customers, I think we're at 200,000, that come back and buy us and wear us for their whole life and start thinking of their life not in how much I can consume, but actually how much do I need? So Paskho is really that passion. So that's how the brand was born. But then we went somewhere else. So we were, you know, I think this is the part that I think you fell in love with when we were talking, when we first met and we were talking. Yeah. We were manufacturing at the beginning everything in Asia. We were working with this amazing factory called KTC. Amazing, they're phenomenal. I basically said I had to work for a factory that I could go live there and eat with the people. And actually, when I traveled there, the way they treat their employees, I would stay in the dorm because it was nicer than the 4-star hotel down the street. Oh. They had their own bar on the facility. They had workout facility. They had tennis courts. They really took care of their people, but more, they made some of the best performance clothes in the world. Yeah. I remember even then, they're a whole nother story. Flash, you know, we all get into COVID. And so our company's in COVID. We're struggling like every company, but we're getting through because I made a commitment to my entire team at the beginning. And this just outlines the kind of way I think about humans. As everyone, we saw revenue drop. Like we saw it drop, you know, but to a quarter, 3/4 of what it was, like everyone. But I looked at my entire team on my first Zoom call. It basically said, we're all going to get through this together. Honestly, every person on this call is going to make it to the other side of this. I have no idea how long it's going to last. I was thinking it was more like 6 months then, like most of us, but
like most of us, exactly.
2.5 years later. But basically what I'm so proud is that every person on my team made it to the other side with us. We paid their health care. I don't know how, I haven't paid myself a decent salary. I think last year I paid myself $7,000.
That article in Vogue that I mentioned earlier, I read that you actually cut your salary to 0 to make sure that you retained your entire staff.
The entire staff. I actually took all of my savings and put my savings into the company. I sold things, and so we could get the entire team through to the other side. And then I was shocked. So that lines you up for where I was. I started seeing all these people fall through the safety nets. And I questioned other companies like me. Yeah, it was hard. It was really hard. But I questioned companies that were much larger with a much better balance sheet than mine, let all their employees go. And started, you know, cutting their healthcare and cutting this. and something just broke up. And this was also during the middle of the conversation about civil rights in this country that we're still having. And I'm watching, I watched Floyd die, and I watched it over and over with tears. And I actually I had to come out and actually, I made an email to my entire audience that buys Paskho, and spoke about it as a father, as a Black man. Just something in my world broke open. Because if you live in this country and you're Black, you do have challenges. It is difficult. It doesn't matter how successful I've been. I'm still just a Black man when I get in this situation or that situation. And it's a whole nother conversation we can come back and have. But what it all came to is I said I could do more. I can't just have this conversation about sustainability with my company. I can't just have this conversation about buying less and doing better. Yeah. That I had to have a bigger conversation that we could do more. And with all the, as you mentioned, all the things I've done in my career, I know how to do a lot. So what we did was we switched all of our manufacturing back to the US, and we call it community made. And we started in New York City, and we go into communities that, New York City, when we started, everybody who worked with us, over 45 to 60 people over a period of time, were all unemployed, all the way to people who worked on Broadway. All the costumers came and worked for us to make money. And that's the core of our company now. And we took it to a very rural community in Alabama who makes clothes, and we built a facility there. And we have 20 women who weren't working before working there. The other thing is we pay them a really, really great wage, so that they can, it's something that they can be proud of, and they can have they feel like they're dignified and they have a dignified job. We're opening this month in South Dakota on the Cheyenne Indian Reservation, the 4th largest Indian reservation in the US. We're going to open a facility there. Super excited. We believe there's going to be between 20 and 30 different makers who are going to start with us there. And if you look at an Indian reservation, you look at the problems in the US, just 3 times it. Just put a 3x in front of it. But you also have that when I go to different parts, like that when I'm in Alabama, you see what America is becoming, but which we're going to fight, which is we're leaving people behind. We're leaving really, really talented, really, really amazing people behind in this world. And so we're solving that with what we're doing with Community Made, and really proud of it. It's a big part of our business.
I mean, if more people took that approach, Patrick, and this is what I find your story so compelling and so inspiring, because I mean, yes, you are making beautiful clothing. It's functional, it's stylish, but it runs deeper than the superficial element of putting on a jacket or a pair of pants. What you're doing for the community, I mean, you are absolutely passionate about social and economic issues that do impact minorities in this country, and you're being proactive about it, and you are probably saving lives too, in many respects. So I mean, I really commend you with what you're doing with your mission, and I hope that more people, designers, business people, anyone, I hope more people follow this path, because it will save our country.
I agree. I think we've, it's the old saying of that if something happens to your neighbor, it's not long until it happens to you. And so part of this, part of what we believe, and part of really what's at the core of this for me is honestly what I found is I'm not helping anyone. They're helping me. You're on a journey in life to see what you can do, to be a part of, we're human, we're social animals. We're supposed to be a part of communities. We're supposed to be challenging each other, but also embracing each other. And what I found with each community we're in, they give me so much, and they've taught me so much about how to be not only a better designer, a really better person.
Yeah.
So it's completely changed my life. We're on the mission to open up. We're going to open up another 3 communities after we do the Cheyenne Indian Reservation in South Dakota. We're looking at Puerto Rico. We're looking at Vermont. We're looking at Nebraska. But basically, we could take the United States and drop a pin, and everywhere there are these talented people who are hungry for work.
Do you think or hope that your kid is going to fold into the business at some point, or is he already involved?
Yeah, no, I think I have 2, and
You have 2 children.
a girl and a boy, and he's super creative, and funny enough, he's now more fashionable than definitely me or my wife, and I think he's going to embrace creative writing and the creative arts in a different way. So, but we'll see. We'll see. He's got a super cool, edgy look to him. So.
Yeah, well, he's got a cool mom and dad too. Okay.
Yeah.
And when you're still that young, you don't really see it, or you don't want to admit it, maybe.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's got a cool dad.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely does. That's why I tell him all the time. He never listens. But anyone who has kids knows, you look at your kids and you see, you start seeing your younger self, and it's a joy. It's just a joy.
Yeah. Well, I have really enjoyed this conversation with you, and you've made a Paskho fan out of me.
Fabulous. We got to get you in some Paskho. We'll get you some down there.
I would love some. I would get some. Hopefully I'll be back in New York for Fashion Week in September. You probably run away from fashion.
I as I say now, I have no desire to go to a fashion show. I've done them. I've done that part of my life. And
so, the biggest ones. Yeah. Well, Patrick, I know
it's a younger, cooler crowd than me now.
I cannot really thank you enough. And actually, I want to thank our mutual friend, Deb Chandler with Kick Fanny Media Group, for connecting us.
Yes, really good person.
Well, she called me on the phone and said, hey, there's this fashion designer, he's a good friend, Patrick Robinson. You need to interview him. And I said, okay, put us together. And you know what? That same day, she was texting both of us. So, thank you, Deb, for that. And really, but mostly thank you, Patrick. I love your concept, your mission, your approach. Keep embracing nature and humanity.
Well,
very stylish.
Don't have a choice. It's who I am. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining.
Thank you so much for doing this. It's huge, and thank you for inviting me onto the show. I know you usually have all those very fancy fashion people, but
speak for yourself. You are one of them, absolutely. Patrick, thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much.
Safe travels.
Be well.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.